I want to talk about commitment today. Can I ask you a question? Your routine, your sequences, your rhythms in life, do they communicate devotion to God? Do they communicate an all-in, I've burnt the oxen, I'm taking Isaac up to the top of the mountain? Would your devotion to God communicate a true love for Jesus? How do we spend our day off? If you'll stay to the end of the video, we're going to look at this passage in Luke chapter 2. This Jesus, he's getting rebuked for preaching the gospel in the synagogue at roughly 12 to 13 years old. We've seen this story a million times, those of us that grew up in church. And there's something that I saw in here I believe is going to bless our game today. So a couple steps that we're going to walk through together to look at how we can look at the commitment that we have in our life and see if there's a lack, how we can adjust it. And number one, answer the question of why behind the commitment. So without further ado, welcome back to Love Note. Grateful to be here with you guys today. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Right here in Luke's Gospel, chapter 2, verse 49, it says, why do you seek me? So this is Jesus. He's talking to his mom and dad, Mary and Joseph. They're coming back after 3 days journey. There's a whole lot there we could get into. But they've gone for 3 days journey without Jesus, believing that he's in the caravan, but he's not. Just going to show you right there. Number one, you can be walking in what you believe is commitment to God, that you're walking with God and he's not even there. So that's number one. Is Jesus even in the things that you're doing in the name of commitment? Is he even asked you to do those things? That's an even better question. So he asked him, he says, why do you seek me? Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business? So now, of course, we understand that in the surface level breakdown of this passage, he's simply addressing the fact that he's preaching the gospel, which is what he's going to be doing in his public ministry. He's at the temple and he's doing what God has called him to do. He's preached the good news. He came to bring the good news. But at a deeper level, I see Jesus answering an internal question here. You know, if we could take a step and look at this story allegorically or poetically, if we could kind of look at this in a way to draw life principles, imagine that you're doing what God's called you to do, and there's these questions that are coming at you from family members, from loved ones, from coworkers, whatever it is. They're asking you these questions. These questions, did God really ask you to do this? Did God really call you to do this? You've got these questions coming, and I believe that Jesus is giving us some insight here that we're always going to have to be answering this question. Whenever we're walking in true destiny, we're walking in what God's called us to, we're always going to be answering this question of, am I really called to this? Is this because I believe that ministry or career or assignment, whatever you want to call it, because you don't have to be a pastor to be in ministry. We're all in ministry as Christians or as Christians. We're called to bring the good news, that we're going to have to be answering this question. Am I really called to this? Is this something I really want to do? Is this price really worth paying? So I think Jesus is giving us this insight of, hey, I've got to answer a question. There's a question I got to be answered. And Jesus, of course, that question that he would have to answer is, would he be willing to drink that cup? So what God cup have you been invited to in this season? And now I want to back this up. We're going to land the plane in we're going to look at Mark 3:35 real quick, and then land the plane of 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 21. But I want to back up for a second. What's my level of commitment? Okay, so let's just assume for the purpose of discussion today that what you're doing is something that God's called you to, that you are smack dab in the middle of God's purpose for your life, your assignment, your career, whatever it is, your duty. And I want to ask us a question today. What's your level of commitment? What's your level of commitment? What does your routine look like? Does your routine exemplify commitment? Or does your routine exemplify doing just enough to get by? Okay? And then now I want to go even further, and I want to ask you a question. How do you spend your days off? How much devotion to God is exemplified on your days off? Because what I'm really getting at here is the question of prayer and intimacy. No matter what you're assigned or called to, the vehicle that's going to sustain that, or that's going to actually be able to, the driver on that, is going to be your prayer life and intimacy. So my question is, your devotion, your commitment to God. You thought I was asking about commitment to the call. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking about your commitment to the place of prayer and intimacy, your commitment to the prayer closet. Because the level of your commitment to that prayer closet is going to directly correlate to your level of commitment to the calling or to the assignment. Because without a commitment to the prayer closet, there will be no calling. There will be no sustaining. There'll be no, as Jesus says, fruit that remains. So I want us to ask this question, and then look at this. On my day off, how much time am I sitting in front of a TV staring at a box on a wall or staring at the face of God in the prayer closet? I want to suggests that the true devotion and commitment to the place of prayer and intimacy in a man or a woman of God's life is going to be seen in how much time they spend in prayer and intimacy in the Word on their days off. Now, listen, I'm not naive. It's not lost on me that we have family, we have commitments, we got things that we need to do on our days off. I understand. And even sometimes, a lot of times, probably those days off are really catch-up days. But even in the midst of that, how much are we sacrificing away from those comfort items so that we can get into the place of prayer and intimacy? In Mark 3:35, it says right here, for whoever does the will of my Father is my brother and my mother and my sister. So at the surface level, right here, Jesus is making a separation in our opening text in Luke's gospel, where he's saying, hey, listen, this question mark of who my real family is being answered right here on what I'm called to. And then he's going to say in Mark 3:35 that the people that I'm actually called to are the people that are doing the will of God in their life. And then last but not least, we see Elijah and Elisha being called in this moment. They're having this moment together where Elisha's being called to carry the mantle, and he's asking these questions. Hey, can I go back and handle some family business first? And paraphrasing here, but Elijah is basically saying, hey, look, I don't know why you're talking to me. I didn't call you. And so we see him answering that question. Am I really called? Am I really called to this? My commitment's there. My prayer life is there. But now here comes this gut check moment where I'm having to even deny some things when it comes to family. I'm even having to make sacrifices beyond even the family unit right here. And he's going to answer this question in Isaiah, 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 21. And what he does is he turns back and he burns the yoke and the oxen. He burns the yoke and the oxen. So my question for us today is, are we truly committed? And is this commitment supported by a life of prayer and intimacy that is committed? Are we? And if we are, we're going to see some fruit that's carried out in our day-to-day that's going to bridge the gap and produce what Jesus calls fruit that lasts. Because at the end of the day, the only way to really go all in is for you to crucify your plan B, for you to take your Isaac up the mountain, for you to take what you think makes sense and throw it away at the snap of a finger. When the Lord says go, it's time to go. So are we committed? What does our prayer life look like? And are you ready to burn the yoke and the oxen? Y'all be blessed.